Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I don't suspect I'm going to spend too long on this Q&A. I mean, about the average time, but I'm definitely going to be looking to keep myself in time this week. So my two cats are getting along, which means that both of them get to sleep in the bedroom with me and my girlfriend. And one of them decided that I am the perfect pillow. And thus, I did not get any sleep last night because the entire time I was afraid to move because I didn't want to disturb her. And I'm super exhausted because of that. Feels like I didn't even sleep last night, and yet I have to raid in a few hours. So that's actually been a big reason why there's only been like maybe 2 or 3 videos in a week. I've been trying to keep a pretty good schedule. I think 3 to 4 videos in a week is still pretty good considering the amount of time that I've lost in the past couple weeks. I took up a Ultimate Reprog group that's been about 12 to 15 hours a week, depending on, you know, the time we're actually spending raiding, plus the time before and after where I'm just kind of like, you know, warming up and cooling down from stream time and raid time. And then a few other things, still doing my cooking, my workout. So my time has been like really constrained over this past week. Once we finish this T reprog, it should open up and I should be able to get a lot of my video ideas that are just bubbling up here that I'm super excited to do. But hopefully people have been enjoying stuff like the controller appreciation, the so you want to start tanking. We're going to do more so you want tos as well, you know, DPSing, healing, and then a few more specific things that I get questions about pretty frequently in 14. But with that, like I said, I'm exhausted, so let's thank our sponsors and then move on to the Q&A. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting. There's no reason for them to support. In fact, I think there was a new name now that I'm remembering back to last week. Scryle. There we go. Scryle, who got added to the top tier to the premium tier. Thank you to them, but on top of that, thank you to everyone else supporting over on Patreon, and thank you to our Patrons of Darkness, Khuja Cross on Jenova, and Kurenai Oni, who have gone above and beyond with their support over on Patreon, even though there's nothing special for being over there. All my content is free and available here on YouTube, and as long as you enjoy that, you know, I'm glad to have you along for the ride. But thank you to them, and thank you to all of you for tuning in. Now with that, let's see what the Q&A has in store and see how quick I can knock this out. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, howdy, hi, and hey there. Hope you're having a good day. Same to you, and hopefully by the time you're reading this, I'll be having a better Monday than Sunday. My question is about job changes from expansion to expansion. As far as you recall, have the devs ever described their general process for updating jobs? For example, how they assess reception of a job. I mean, they just go through a general feedback process. They often tell us that they receive feedback about specific elements of the job, too complicated, too stiff in terms of feel, abilities that people don't like, and that usually feeds into the kind of job changes that we see even from a patch to patch basis. Just when they want to do anything larger, they tend to save it for expansion. So like Monk and Summoner will pretty likely be seeing some more significant changes than some of the other jobs whereas some other jobs will probably just get a new tool added here, something updated from before that was a little bit, again, just not all the way there in terms of reception, but they're pretty clear about like what bits of feedback lead to certain changes, and then sometimes they just want to do something new and fun, and sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't, and that's just for us to wait and find out at this point. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey there, Haps. Quick question. Hello, and let's see. With the recent changes due to accessibility, the near raid and the sage icon, which were both good changes, got me wondering about some phobias and a particular alliance for... Oh, I already know what this is going to be. Has Yoshi and the team ever said anything about addressing the first boss of the Weeping City raid with the very giant spider? Do you think that's something they could even possibly do? So, I know that some game companies, when they're seeking to avoid an arachnophobia in particular, they avoid more real-looking spiders. They look for something like the boss being more humanoid. So even though they have insect or arachnid type legs and maybe like an overall body structure, that there's no spider or anything that really resembles it. It's not like a Dark Souls spider, for example, where it, you know, it feels and looks very much like a Black Widow or a tarantula. This is this demon monster that kind of takes a lower half that resembles it, and then otherwise tries to avoid the overall appearance. So I think that's the main reason why. I'd have to ask someone with a really keen sense of arachnophobia how they actually feel about that boss. But from what I understand, from what I've heard in the industry, that's the big way that a lot of developers get around arachnophobia while still including something spider related, is to make it so it doesn't resemble any real spiders, so it's less likely to trigger some sort of effect. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Welcome to Mr. Law. You know, I forgot that was last week. It's been such a long week for me. But Aloha's not here, as you can see, this week, in case you hadn't noticed. Where he asks sly questions and Happy answers them in Ethis' voice. Alright, so I'm here to answer a question as Ethis. That's the best I could do, Ethis-wise. Hi. Have you had a chance to play Pixel Remasters? Yes. I have already finished and 100%ed 1. I'm currently working on finishing and 100%ing 2. I might be done with that the same day that you're actually watching this video. And so far they've been fantastic. The font issue most people brought up, honestly, it didn't even bother me, but there's been so many fixes available for it. Even to make it look like, you know, really old school pixel font. And it seems like a really easy fix, so maybe Square Enix will fix it themselves, because it honestly doesn't seem like it should really be an issue in the first place. And other than that, it's just the same things I liked and don't liked about the first 3 Final Fantasies are all still pretty much there. They've got some quality of life that makes them more tolerable, even in their moments where you're kind of like, that's right, you know, I'm not a big fan of this moment, or I'm not a big fan of this dungeon or this game mechanic. It's enough to get through it without too much of a headache, because Final Fantasy 2 and 3 are actually 2 of the 3 of my least favorite Final Fantasy games, with 9 being the 3rd least favorite. It goes 9, 2, 3 from like 3rd, 2nd to 1st in terms of ones I don't like. So even that with that, it's been almost no problem playing through 2. It's just some things I still don't like about it. So I think they're fantastic so far, though, and I'm really excited to see 4 through 6. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello there. Hi, you doing all right? Tired, but otherwise all right. Hopefully you're doing the same. Long time watcher, first question. Welcome. Hope I'm not too late. No, but you did ask today. Good timing. Actually, you asked when I was asleep, so you were definitely okay. Anyways, I finally got a PS5 and been playing the PS4 client on the PS5 and realized that there's a Ps5 client. When I want to know are there advantage or disadvantages with the PS5 client versus the PS4 client on the PS5. As of right now, most PS5 players tell me to play the PS4 client on the PS5. Apparently the PS5 client has issues with frame drops, especially around stairs, and a couple of other issues in regards to the actual performance, and they are waiting for fixes to the PS5 client directly. So those are the 2 things that I've heard. So almost everyone who plays on the PS5 tells me to play on the PS4 client on the PS5 instead of doing the full upgrade. But that even if you do that, it realistically probably doesn't pose that much of an issue. You just need to be aware of some of the downsides. It'll probably get fixed at some point. And by then, you know, hopefully it'll be by Endwalker, is what I'm meaning to say. Was keyboard and mouse working on PS5? I have no feedback on that. I haven't tried it myself, and I actually haven't heard anything secondhand, so I don't have anything to offer with that. But I'd imagine it's no different than PS4 overall, which I've heard pretty good things about. So we'll go with all that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hope you've been doing well. Hope the same for you. I've gotten my final Bojan 1v1 clear. I've cleared all 7, including DRS. That's one even I haven't done. My question is, which duel do you think is the most fun or the hardest? Have you tackled the 1v1 in DRS? No, I haven't. Ever since clearing DRS for the 5th time, I've never been back in there, and I wasn't the duelist because I was playing healer. So we had one of our DPS playing duelist in there. That being said, I actually think the DRS one is the most interesting. Not to say that the other ones aren't challenging or aren't interesting, but the DRS one has this totally different vibe to it, and the importance that you play on having a nice smooth clear for all of DRS, on top of doing things like the maze mechanic, I think is a fantastic use of the actions that you have there for the perception action. And overall, I think it's a really, really good encounter. If you're really good, you skip a lot of that stuff now, but I actually do have the most appreciation for the DRS 1v1. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. No hello. There it is. Good thing someone said hello like 4 times for this person. I'm starting to play melee DPS a lot and have questions about positionals. During Savage stuff and high-end content, I don't feel like the potency bunch from positionals is worth the effort to separate my brain and worry about those, while at the same time dealing with mechanics. I feel like sticking to my attack quantity instead of worrying about where I'm positioned is better. I think Square will increase potency or add more juicy incentives to positionals for melee DPS. I feel more inclined to care. Well, let me tell you, you are losing a lot. Every few GCDs, you're essentially losing a full GCD's worth of potency, and that is very, very significant. I will say that it is the correct attitude that if you cannot hit a positional, it is smarter to just make sure the attack is going off. Delaying to land a positional is never the correct decision for a melee DPS. You need that GCD rolling. So you've got halfway of the mentality that I would recommend. Second thing is, you really should consider planning around True North. And in the case of Monk, your Riddle of Earth stacks. With those, you can really maintain super proper uptime in almost any circumstance. There's very few encounters where the shortage of positional ignoring abilities that you have on Monk will actually become a shortage, I suppose. So it is already super worth it. I know that it's hard to tell, and I see that that's really more of what you're asking, how to feel more of the impact in regards to, that you've hit a positional, but they definitely want to shy away from what they had in A Realm Reborn, where, for example, on Trick Attack, if you missed the rear back then, there was no trick. There was no damage increase. Dragoon could completely lose their combos for failing a positional. They kind of have that now with Raiden Thrust, but they definitely want to avoid that. But if you just look at it from a potency perspective, you'll find very quickly, especially when it comes to losing things like the crit on a boot shine, for example, that it's a massive loss. So I would definitely adjust your mentality and think more about your True North and your Riddle of Earth stacks than just saying, I'm not going to think about it at all. That's the next step to enhancing your own gameplay as a melee player. I didn't see a hashtag, but I did see that this was a question. I saw the words first time ask, and I figured, you know what, they don't need the hashtag. I can see that this is a question. Hello and good day. And they also said hello, so you know what, that's a point above the previous person. First time asker, long time watcher, have enjoyed a first time bonus of a steak of your choice. Give me that Wagyu. That's what it's got to be. This question isn't 14 related. That's fine. This Q&A is not only for Final Fantasy 14 related questions, just a very common denominator of interests that we have here. I'm looking to get into Ring Fit. I have played through Ring Fit almost 2 times through, and it is fantastic. I know you've used it in the past. Wonder, do you still recommend it? So the pro to Ring Fit is that it is a video game, first and foremost. So if you're very motivated by finishing games, by progressing games, Ring Fit really hits those notes super well. You'll be so exhausted you won't think about how kind of linear the plot is or how kind of, subtle it is and not important it is, because you'll be too exhausted to really care. I will say that it suffers from one major thing, that because you're playing it, because it is a game, when you actually beat the final boss, yes, there's a new game plus, yes, there's more exercises to unlock, and there's more unlockables to get, but it does lose a lot of its motivational power. Because you're no longer really progressing to get through the game, you're progressing to beat it again, and at that point you really need to accept that you're progressing for yourself. And that can make it really easy to fall off the wagon with that. I will say that for several months, though, at least to get you back in the rhythm of getting some physical exercise, Ring Fit was amazing for me. I'm actually invested in this new technology that's coming out. I think it's called Quell, where it's a harness that comes with like gauntlet setups and whatnot, so you can punch and run and stuff like that. And it's kind of like Ring Fit, but like taken to a whole nother level. So hopefully that which I've backed, and it's supposed to actually be coming out later this year. Hopefully that comes to fruition, and I can have something to say about that as well. But that's going to be way more expensive than a Ring Fit, which is like, I think $60-$70, and that'll carry you for months. Trust me, it's a super good investment. And from this question onward, there is a cat in this room, though I don't have the tower behind me, so he's not behind me, at least not yet. I might move it into frame once he actually jumps on top of it, which is right now. Hey, what's going on, buddy? They can't see you, but I'm going to give you some scritches. There you go. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Mr. Happy, saw your video on C6 Ayaka. I was wondering, since you now have a C6 5-star character, do you think it is worth to spend a lot of resources on a C6 5-star? Is it better to get 7 different 5-star characters at C0? I think it's somewhere in between the two. I think it really depends. Constellations 1 and 2 in Genshin are often the major power points for characters. For example, Klee with her C2 gets a defense shred, which is fantastic, and now opens her up to be a sub DPS or a support of some kind. And then if she can get all the way to C4 and you can buff her up, then she's allowed to more safely pop her ultimate and then actually blow up for a ton of damage, makes her work kind of good in big one-hit vaporize comps. But then you have characters who, if you don't have at least their C1, it's almost impossible. Like, I can't imagine not having like C1 Tartaglia, for example. So I think it's really a mix of, you go for C0 through C2 for characters you really plan to enjoy, and characters that feel like those are really important towards their balance. And if you don't have those, you're at a major disadvantage. Whereas you have other characters that function perfectly fine at C0, and I think Ayaka is actually one of them. She doesn't need her C1 or her C2 or 4 or 6 in order to be a fully functioning character. She needs good artifacts, she needs a decent weapon. So honestly, I got her to C6 because I really wanted her. It was the joke. I was saving up for all those months because, I was like, oh, maybe she'll release in 1.3, 4, 5, and then she didn't until all the way in 2.0. And at that point, I was committed to the idea. But in terms of a logical standpoint, C0 through C2 is really the ideal thing, and getting multiple characters for different comps, especially in the Spiral Abyss, is more important. But because the Spiral Abyss is the only difficult content in all of Genshin, in my mind, you're either pulling for favorites or you're pulling for Spiral Abyss completion. So once you can do both of those things, then it doesn't even really matter anymore. Just do whatever you want at that point, really. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Habs, hope all is well and you're feeling a bit more rested. You know, all this week I felt more rested until I recorded today. So, just my luck, right? We've seen the Matanga Beast Tribe, obviously, and them serving as conductors for one of Damn Daniel's towers. Is there a Matanga Primal we currently know of? So, in one of the screenshots of one of the dungeons, we can see that inside the tower, there is a tower where all the Matanga are strapped to it, similar to the way we've seen in other towers. And that is the tower where we actually see the Magus Sisters also. It looks to be a statue of something that resembles the Magus Sisters. So, I'm going to bet that it's them. That the Magus Sisters are actually some sort of deity or primal that the Matangas believe in that will be manifested as part of the tower that's in Fabnir. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Mr. Happy, and hello, aloha too. Hope y'all are doing well. He actually left the room already. But he'll say hi anyway. Long-time watcher, first-time questions. Two-parter, but hopefully quick ones. Wondered this for years. What is the functional difference between early access and official release day? PR, for the most part. I think there's a few things that don't work on the MOG station, and it also serves as a last 4-day period where someone can pre-order the game to get any pre-order benefits, including, in this case, the Menfina's earrings. So it's almost like a marketing period to get people to pre-order and get that little bit of an extra bonus. But I do think there's some MOG station features that don't actually work until the official release day, but I'd have to double check on that. I'm not confident about that part of the answer. As for the second one, your BA guide, is that still in the works? No, so I've mentioned this in a bunch of videos, but never made a formal video actually saying it. My BA guide's not happening because the resources that are on the various Discords are more valuable than anything I could put together for BA. They're in my opinion, the best ways to learn it. To go into those Discords and to look in their resource channels and use that, maybe keep it up on a second monitor or something. Way more valuable. If I did it, it would be for fun. I don't think it would be as good a resource as what those people who have spent way more time in there have put together on their Discord. So that's not happening for that reason. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Well, lolly ho, happy. Hello, hello. First time asker on a Mondays with Aloha featuring Mr. Happy. The show where we ask you questions as an excuse to get cat cuteness, except he's not here. Someone who's been following your YouTube channel for a while but hasn't had the chance to catch your live streams, I feel the need to ask, what got you into Genshin? What aspect of the game resound well for you, and what do you feel they haven't hit their stride on yet? Most importantly, since it wasn't in the YouTube video, when you C6 Ayaka, did you get C6 on the Yanfei? Yes, I did. I got C6 on Yanfei around C3 of the Ayaka. So, honestly, it was just people asking me if I was going to play it. That's it. It's the only real reason that even happened in the first place. You know, I'm not super into more anime style games. They have to kind of hit other beats in order for me to really enjoy them. For this one, it was really the exploration, the fact that it was trying with its story, its voice acting. It really seemed like they cared about actually building out a world that people who were invested in it could really stop and enjoy. The biggest problem they hit was, of course, during the pandemic, not being able to develop new areas and expand that world at a pace that was really it was what they intended. They were obviously set back so far. And so now with Inazuma, where now they have like a few islands and they're going to add another one here and another one there, and they could kind of drip feed more explorable areas before the next update where they do another giant area like Inazuma and Liyue. It sounds like now they've got that rhythm back because they're not being inhibited as much as they were during, 2020, late 2020 into 2021. So for me, those are the big elements of it. I do find the gameplay fun. It's not particularly enthralling, but I do enjoy it. And then I play mobile games anyway, so it kind of just fits the bill. It's super easy once you're caught up to just pop in 15, 20 minutes, get some stuff done, and then when the next major content drops, then you can actually play it and enjoy it. So speaking of which, Spiral Abyss just reset today, so I actually have to get around for that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, howdy, hey, hi. Salute. How are you doing? Doing fine. Hopefully you're doing the same. And has Aloha received this proper level of worship today? Ivy's the one who wants the worship today, trust me. Recently I've seen many people talk about wanting a minimum item level no echo roulette for trials and raids. From your perspective, playing the game over the years with content unreal, what do you think would be the pros and cons of an item level roulette option? A roulette does not guarantee a quality player who can actually compete in something that's minimum item level, is the biggest problem. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, if somebody's not cut out for it, they won't queue for it. No. I wish that was the case. My party finders and duty finders and my gameplay experience tell me that if you make a roulette for it, if you add rewards to it, if you try to make people able to do it daily, there's going to be a lot of people who don't go in there fully with the intent of performing to a satisfactory degree, especially because you're saying for trials and raids, which implies, especially if it's a roulette, that it's extremes, because trials and normal mode raids are not precisely the kind of content that needs this kind of feature. So, yeah, it really doesn't hit the beats. The people who do those kind of things, they are more likely to form groups themselves and tackle them, as opposed to being stuck with random people where there's no quality control whatsoever and no guarantee that they're even really on the same level of actually wanting to succeed. If it happens in pre-made parties and a roulette, it's going to be 10 times worse. You've already also brought up balancing rewards. I mean, that's going to be the normal reward. It's going to be tomes. It's not going to be like item level or anything like that. It's going to be like next to nothing, or something along the lines of the Fox Hollows for like minions and mounts and stuff, and that's it. It's not going to be a way of you advancing your item level and getting stronger. So that's a big nope from me, dog. I'm getting close to a lightning round here because my brain is slowly descending into bro, take a nap mode. So I'll get through one or two more and then I'll lightning around the rest. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Salutations, Ola. Not to mention my mustache and everything is making my nose itch. Hope you are doing well. You talked in this video and a handful of others about scaling and job-based RNG, and wondering if your opinion on how they interact. What they seem to love in Shadowbringers is they give you high potency single targets or single hit moves, and then having a high potency skill seems to be in its own job-based RNG that makes crit and DH scale way too heavily. Your DPS numbers can live or die by crit RNG with these types of skills. Are we going to see this design philosophy continue in Endwalker? Do you think they're going to find a good balance? Just keep trucking on and give Astrologian Comet that deals 1200 potency. So having abilities with giant potency is kind of a piece of something you can use to identify job identity without actually giving it an actual RNG mechanic. Now, critical hit rate and direct hit rate without these abilities would be equally as valuable. The big thing that people get on with these is, like you said, your numbers can live or die by these. They only live or die at 95 percentile and up. You don't live or die or win entire fights because of good or bad crit RNG outside of maybe the first week. And in which case, with that, honestly, better play will fix crit RNG any day. And it's almost always nerves that's going to cost you in the first week that like can't die. Just got to make sure to do the mechanics right. Push DPS here, push DPS there. And then all those moments in between where you're like, just don't die, just don't die. That's where you lose most of it. It's not to the crit RNG necessarily or the direct hit RNG. So I don't see this changing all too much. It's a great way of giving jobs an identity of a really feel-good skill. It feels good without the crit. It feels amazing with the crit. And then eventually you get used to the crit and it feels bad without the crit. But it's still a big piece of how your job actually accesses its power. And I think that's an identity that they're going to want to continue with some jobs going into Endwalker. All right, so the remaining questions I am going to lighten around. Some of them are answered in replies, and some of them are more jokey. So it's like somebody asking Aloha what it's like to live with me. I mean, I feed him, so the answer better be amazing, or I'm going to be very upset. Someone asked me to do a raid video. I can. There's a lot of videos out there, some great videos. I know Midna made a really good video about that a while back, but it's still really relevant to this day. I think Rin's made a video about this. There's been a lot of content creator videos around that. Maybe I still throw my opinion in the hat, but I'm unsure about that. I've got other ideas that I want to work on at the moment. So let's see here. What else did I kind of go over? Will there be VODs for LunarCon? I can't imagine there not being VODs for LunarCon. Shen and Crystal put a lot of work into that. I don't think they'd want it to just disappear after it's over. So I can't say for certain the answer is yes, but I'd be shocked if the answer wasn't yes. Do you think they'll add new companions that we can fight alongside? No, they don't. We don't use them for anything. We use them for almost nothing at all. So unless they want to do something like Beastmaster as a limited job where those companions we level up with and fight alongside, that's it. Honestly, that's the only way. I think if Beastmaster, if that's their core limited job gameplay mechanic, is the only way I see that actually happening. There was a question somebody asked me about the Anima video, the ideal primal fight I made. I still want the raid to get split in two in that fight. I want to see 4 people have to fight the top half of Anima, 4 people fight the bottom half. For me, it always flashes back to Ruby Sanctum in Wrath of the Lich King and World of Warcraft, the extra raid we didn't need after Icecrown Citadel, but something like that for Anima. Somebody said, how am I only going to take 4 or 5 hours to level Reaper? I'm going to have a pre-made dungeon group. We're going to have all the EXP buffs. We'll have the Squadron Grade 3 EXP buff. I'll have food. I'll have Rested EXP. I'll use Wondrous Tales to get half a level from 70 to 71. I'll prep some challenge logs in advance and then do a limited leveling roulette with the full pre-made to get from 70 to 71. That should take no longer than 10 to 15 minutes, in all honesty. And then it's just trucking through dungeons. And with the increased armory bonus EXP, with the earrings, with the free company buff, food buff, all that stuff, we're gonna fly through it without a doubt. Somebody else asked that same question here. And I am planning on actually doing a quick rundown closer to the actual release of Endwalker. I'm afraid that something in that strategy would get adjusted that I'm not expecting. Like maybe Wondrous Tales, they're going to nerf the EXP on it. You know, they could do that. I don't think they will, but they could. So if I release that video now and then they say, oh, you know, we're going to do this to the Wondrous Tales EXP, then, you know, I'm screwed. But we might not, they might even just do that without telling us in advance. So I could be making that video just to get made fun of and be like, so this ended up being worthless. So I'm trying to wait till much closer to the actual day before I actually release it. What Scion do you want to see get more of the limelight, main cast or B team? I mean, I don't know. I don't really care. I want to meet some new characters, man. How about that? None of them. Give me new characters. That's what I want to see. Graha's probably coming on a journey with us going into 6.1 and onward. I have a feeling he's not quite done with us after 6.0 is done. Do you use any build guides or tools for characters? I just discuss it with my community. I'm sure they pull up all sorts of things when we're discussing it. But I often just kind of use common sense. In Genshin, most characters want minimum 40% crit rate, a ton of crit damage, and then attack percentage. Then you have Anemo characters that can just stack Elemental Mastery, or you have characters that have long cooldowns on their E, so maybe you want to use a sacrificial item to reset that cooldown. Things like that, but no, I rarely ever pull that up. Maybe I think for Jean, I pulled one up to see if an EM build was ideal, if maybe I should go for a pure physical, but that was really looking more for feedback and less for exactly what I needed to get for that one. Then there was another one that was like, do you think we'll hear Soken's take on With It the Giant? I mean, if there's a reference to be made, Soken will likely do reorchestration of any track in the Final Fantasy franchise, so I won't be surprised to see anything along those lines. What 14 job would your cats be? It doesn't say job, but I know that's what they meant. Whatever the laziest job is. Warrior. Aloha could be warrior. Whatever the laziest job is, he'll play that one. He'll play warrior. Or dancer. No, he's not agile enough to. He's a big boy, so he'll probably have to play warrior. Then there was another one here. That's the positional question. Do you think they'll ever make range physical use scouting? No. Scouting's good. There probably will be a new scouting job, but it won't be range physical. It'll be a melee DPS. Anything range physical is going to get aiming gear, without a shadow of a doubt. What else do we have here? Maybe do you think... Would you like to see any changes in the way to spawn duels? No. I mean, if you want to practice on them, just queue in and don't be afraid to fail. It's not that big a deal anymore anyway if somebody fails a duel with the new system, because eventually the person who wants to get in the duel can actually ensure that they get in it. There's someone asking if Hildebrand is a warrior of light. No, that was just a fun little reference. He's not actually... He's the gentleman of light, but he's not a warrior of light. Then there were set pieces. They were asking about set pieces from... what's it called? Set pieces from an old benchmark, and then asking if one of the new creatures from the new Omega-looking creature from the new benchmark is a set piece. Well, I mean, it's a set piece, but it's probably not part of the MSQ. I'm not going to lie. Most of the time in these benchmarks, they either show off dungeon or trial bosses or characters that they're planning on using eventually, or they show off fate bosses, you know, the open world giant bosses like Archaeotania and stuff like that. I think he's probably just a world boss, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be anything more than that, but less of a set piece again, and more of just a world boss that they're using for the sake of this big old test right here. Especially with the sheer number of characters on the screen, it would make even more sense at that point. Let's see. Then there's another one. No, that one's let's see. I think I've gotten this question like every week, and I'll just answer real quick. Someone asking me if I think they'll do separate, like, branching story paths after 6.0. No. All the events in 6.1 are still contingent on 6.0's events happening, even if it's taking us down a new story path. So, no, I think they'll always have it so that you'll have to do all the stories in a row, and they'll always have all those quests. Whether or not they decide to fast track it through anything other than a skip potion, who knows, but I think they'll always have those in that order, and you'll have to play them in that order in order to play some of the newer stuff. Let's see. That was the job question. Then mostly comments about Aloha, and I think that might actually be the last one. Well, what's Aloha's favorite cat toy? He likes mice. We actually had to take him to get an emergency endoscopy like a month ago because he swallowed one of his mouse toys, and now we do not let him take the toy whenever we're actually playing with it. We keep that shit on lock whenever we're playing with him. And that is the last question for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. I think I got to all the questions. I'm pretty sure I didn't miss any. Hopefully that is the case. I've seen some people say that I missed their question, and I'm like, did I? Or maybe it was something that I didn't understand that it was like a question in the first place. Maybe it wasn't flagged properly or something. I don't know. But thank you for watching this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And if you have a question for next week's episode, put it in the comment section of the video below, and I'll get to it. But thank you all for watching. I'm going to go chill a little bit before raid, and I hope you all had a good weekend. I hope you all have a good week. So I will see you in the next Monday video. And until then, take care.